Marcus Thompson had lived in his suburban neighborhood for 15 years, carefully maintaining his property and respecting boundaries. The two-story colonial house at 600 Maple Grove had been more than just a home. It was a testament to his life's hard work and dedication. He had purchased the property shortly after marrying his wife, Alina, transforming the then-modest property into a sanctuary for their growing family. The backyard pool was more than just a recreational feature. It was a centerpiece of family memories. Marcus remembered the summers spent teaching his children to swim, the weekend barbecues with friends, and the quiet moments of solace he found floating on a pool raft after long workdays as a civil engineer. The pool had been installed in 2008, a significant investment that required careful planning and approval from local zoning committees. When the economic downturn hit in 2010, Marcus had been one of the few in his neighborhood to maintain his property's value. He meticulously trimmed the hedges, repainted the fence every 3 years, and ensured the pool area was always pristine. His attention to detail was legendary among the longtime residents of the street. The neighborhood had always been a model of suburban tranquility, at least until Karen Pearson moved in 2 years ago. A recent transplant from a gated community in Florida, Karen brought with her a different approach to neighborly interactions. Where previous neighbors had been friendly and accommodating, she arrived with a clipboard, a measuring tape, and a seemingly inexhaustible supply of complaints. From the moment she moved in, Karen had been a persistent source of tension. She questioned the height of Marcus's fence, the type of grass in his lawn, and the placement of his garbage bins. Her complaints were always delivered with a mixture of self-righteous indignation and a thinly veiled threat of involving local authorities. Marcus had always been a patient man. His work as a civil engineer had taught him the value of diplomacy and precise documentation. He kept meticulous records of every interaction, every property survey, and every communication with Karen. Little did he know that his carefully maintained documentation would soon become crucial in what was about to unfold. The pool, a 20 by 40-foot in-ground structure with a deep end reaching 8 feet, had been installed well before Karen's arrival. It was positioned squarely within the property lines, verified by multiple surveys over the years. But Karen seemed convinced that somehow, despite all evidence to the contrary, the pool was not entirely on Marcus' property. As summer approached and the pool preparation began, Marcus could sense the brewing storm. Karen's increasingly frequent appearances at the property line, her not-so-subtle photographs, and her loud phone conversations suggested that a confrontation was imminent. What she didn't know was that Marcus was prepared, not just emotionally, but legally and documentarily. The conflict erupted on a crisp Saturday morning in late May. Karen Peterson stood at the edge of her perfectly manicured lawn, a thick manila folder clutched to her chest like a weapon of bureaucratic warfare. Her eyes were fixed on the pool that had existed long before her arrival, measuring and remeasuring with a laser distance meter she had purchased specifically for this confrontation. Marcus first became aware of the escalating situation when he received a certified letter from Karen. The envelope was pristine, its edges sharp, with Karen's return address printed in a precise, almost militaristic font. Inside, a meticulously typed document claimed that approximately 3.2 feet of his pool's western edge encroached on what Karen believed to be her property. The irony was not lost on Marcus. He had been involved in numerous land surveying projects during his engineering career and knew the importance of precise property boundaries. The original survey of the property, conducted when he first purchased the home in 2003, was comprehensive and had been updated multiple times since. Each survey confirmed the pool's exact placement, well within the legal boundaries of his property. Karen's claims became increasingly elaborate. She produced hand-drawn diagrams with colored pencil markings, arguing that a historical property line from decades ago suggested a different boundary. She began leaving notes in Marcus's mailbox, each more aggressive than the last. One particularly memorable missive suggested that the pool's placement was not just a property line issue, but a potential neighborhood safety concern. The neighborhood began to take notice. Longtime residents who had known Marcus for years watched the unfolding drama with a mixture of amusement and concern. Tom Richardson, who lived across the street and had been Marcus's neighbor for over a decade, would later recall how Karen would pace the property line, measuring and remeasuring, her smartphone constantly held up as if gathering evidence for some grand inquisition. Marcus' wife, Alina, became increasingly concerned. A high school principal with a no-nonsense attitude, she worried about the potential legal implications. Document everything, she advised Marcus, knowing his tendency to want to resolve conflicts diplomatically. The situation escalated when Karen began taking photographs of the pool from various angles, creating what she presumably thought was a compelling visual argument. She would stand at the property line, her camera extended, capturing images of the pool's edge with a determination that bordered on obsession. What Karen didn't know was that Marcus had anticipated such a confrontation. Tucked away in his home office was a file drawer filled with precise documentation. original surveys, property records, and a comprehensive history of the pool's installation. Each document was carefully preserved, annotated, and protected in plastic sleeves. As summer approached, the tension became palpable. The pool, a source of family joy for Marcus, had become a battleground of suburban bureaucracy. Karen's claims grew more outlandish with each passing week. She began suggesting that the pool's placement was not just a property line issue, but potentially a violation of local zoning regulations. Little did Karen know that Marcus was preparing a response that would be as meticulously documented as her accusations were wild. The breaking point came during a sweltering June afternoon. Marcus had just returned from a long day at the engineering firm where he worked as a senior project manager. The accumulated stress of Karen's relentless accusations weighed heavily on him. His teenage children, Alex and Maria, had begun to dread the constant tension, often hearing their mother and father discuss the increasingly bizarre property dispute over dinner. Marcus spread out the documents on his home office desk, a massive oak piece he had inherited from his father. Surveyor's maps, property records, and Karen's increasingly frantic communications created a mosaic of bureaucratic complexity. He had consulted with his longtime friend Robert Jennings, a local real estate attorney, who confirmed what Marcus already knew. He was well within his rights. Yet the emotional toll was significant. The pool, once a symbol of family joy and summer memories, had become a source of constant stress. Marcus recalled the day they first installed it, how his then-young children had laughed and splashed, how Alina had hosted countless neighborhood gatherings around its sparkling waters. Now it felt like a liability, a potential battleground. After a lengthy discussion with Alina, Marcus made the difficult decision to remove the pool entirely. "It's not worth the constant stress," he told her, his voice a mixture of resignation and determination. Alina, typically his strongest supporter, surprised him by initially pushing back. "Are you really going to let her win?" she asked, her principal's instinct for standing ground surfacing. But Marcus had already calculated the cost, both financial and emotional. The legal battle would be expensive, time-consuming, and potentially damaging to their family's peace of mind. The logistics of pool removal were complex. Marcus contacted 3 different landscaping companies, carefully vetting each one to ensure they understood the precise nature of the project. He needed professionals who could document every step of the removal process, just in case Karen attempted any future legal maneuvers. Local regulations required specific permits for pool removal. Marcus spent weeks obtaining the necessary documentation, ensuring every T was crossed and every I dotted. His engineering background served him well. He created a comprehensive removal plan that would address potential environmental and structural concerns. His children were devastated. 15-year-old Maria had just begun teaching her younger cousins to swim in the pool. 12-year-old Alex had hosted numerous summer birthday parties by the water. The pool represented years of family memories and now was going to be nothing more than a filled-in piece of their backyard. Neighbors began to take notice. Tom Richardson from across the street approached Marcus during one of his preliminary measurements. "You're really going through with this?" he asked, a mixture of disbelief and sympathy in his voice. The neighbor had watched the dispute unfold, with most residents sympathetic to Marcus' predicament. The decision to remove the pool was more than just a practical solution, it was a statement. Marcus was choosing peace over confrontation, family harmony over territorial dispute. He would document everything, remove the pool with precision, and leave no room for Karen's continued accusations. As the first landscaping trucks arrived, Marcus took a final photograph of the pool. It was a bittersweet moment, a symbol of both family memories and the unexpected challenges of suburban life. Little did he know that the pool's removal would be just the beginning of a much larger confrontation with Karen Peterson. The pool removal began on a Tuesday morning. A team of 6 landscapers arrived precisely at 7:30 a.m., their heavy equipment creating a symphony of mechanical sounds that echoed through the quiet suburban street. Marcus had meticulously prepared the site, marking clear boundaries and ensuring every piece of equipment would operate within the legal confines of his property. Karen Peterson first appeared at 8:15 a.m., dressed in a crisp white blouse and tailored khaki pants, her hair pulled back in a severe bun that matched her equally severe demeanor. She positioned herself at the edge of her perfectly manicured lawn, smartphone in hand, recording every movement of the landscaping crew. The lead landscaper, a burly man named Mike Rodriguez, had been briefed by Marcus about potential complications. "Just stay focused on the job," Marcus had told him during their initial consultation. "Document everything, but don't engage." Mike was a veteran of numerous difficult removal projects and understood the importance of professional detachment. As the excavation began, Karen's tactics escalated. She started making loud phone calls, deliberately positioning herself within earshot of the workers. Her conversations were carefully constructed. Marcus could hear snippets about property violations and potential legal infractions. It was performance art disguised as concerned citizenry. Elena had taken the day off work to support Marcus, watching the proceedings from their kitchen window. She knew her husband's tendency to remain calm could be mistaken for weakness, and she was prepared to intervene if necessary. Their children had been sent to school, sparing them the potential drama of the day. Neighborhood dynamics added another layer of complexity. Tom Richardson from across the street had taken to sitting on his front porch, ostensibly reading a newspaper but clearly keeping a watchful eye on the unfolding situation. Other neighbors began to appear, some walking dogs, others pretending to check their mailboxes, all curious about the spectacle. At 10:30 a.m., Karen made her first direct approach. She walked across the property line, smartphone still recording, and began to interrogate Mike Rodriguez about the removal process. Her questions were rapid-fire and increasingly aggressive. "Do you have permits?" she demanded, thrusting her phone closer to Mike's face. Mike, true to Marcus's instructions, remained professional. "Ma'am, all necessary permits are on file with the local authorities. If you got concerns, I suggest you contact the permitting office." The interaction was a masterclass in restrained professionalism. Mike didn't engage beyond the bare minimum, but he didn't back down either. Karen's frustration was palpable. Her preferred method of intimidation was clearly not working. As the morning progressed, Karen's tactics became more desperate. She began taking measurements of her own using a laser distance meter that she wielded like a weapon. She paced the property line, muttering to herself, taking photos from multiple angles. Marcus watched from a distance, documenting everything. He had installed a discreet security camera system the week before, ensuring that every moment of the interaction was captured. His engineering background had taught him the value of comprehensive documentation. By noon, significant progress had been made on the pool removal. The first layer of concrete had been broken, and the excavation was proceeding smoothly. Karen's interventions had done nothing to slow the process, and her frustration was becoming increasingly apparent. Little did Marcus know that Karen was about to escalate the situation in a way no one could have predicted. The silence that followed the heated confrontation was suddenly shattered by the sharp sound of Karen's smartphone dialing. Her fingers trembled slightly as she navigated to the emergency call screen, her eyes never leaving Marcus. The neighborhood seemed to collectively hold its breath. 911. What's your emergency? The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. Karen's response was a carefully crafted performance of distress. "I need to report a serious property violation," she began, her voice pitched to sound as dramatic as possible. "There's a dangerous excavation happening and the property owner is refusing to show proper documentation." Mike Rodriguez, the lead landscaper, exchanged a knowing glance with his team. They had seen this before, desperate homeowners trying to halt construction through emergency services. He continued his work, methodically removing the remaining sections of the pool's concrete base. Tom Richardson, still standing nearby, shook his head quietly. He pulled out his own phone, ready to provide a witness statement if necessary. Elena watched from the sidelines, her arms crossed, a look of determination on her face. The 911 dispatcher asked for more details. Karen began to elaborate, her story becoming more convoluted with each passing moment. She spoke of property line violations, potential structural damage, and what she claimed were imminent safety risks. Marcus remained calm. He pulled out his phone and began recording the conversation, ensuring every word was documented. His engineering background had taught him the importance of precise record keeping. Within 20 minutes, a local police cruiser turned onto Maple Grove. Two officers approached, Officer Jennifer Rodriguez and her partner, Officer David Chen. They were familiar with the neighborhood and had handled numerous similar disputes. As they approached, Karen's demeanor changed. She straightened her posture, holding out her folder of documents like a shield. "Officers," she began, "this is a serious matter of property violation." Officer Rodriguez approached Marcus first, her professional demeanor calm and measured. "Sir, we received a call about a potential property dispute. Could you walk me through what's happening?" Marcus was the epitome of professionalism. He calmly presented his permits, survey documents, and the comprehensive file he had prepared. He explained the pool removal process, pointing out the precise boundaries and showing the official documentation. Karen attempted to interject, but Officer Chen gently but firmly asked her to wait. He began examining the property line markers, comparing them to the documents Marcus had presented. The landscaping crew continued their work, unfazed by the interruption. Mike Rodriguez ensured that every action was precisely documented, knowing the importance of professional conduct. Neighbors had begun to gather at their windows and front yards. The Thompson family's long-standing reputation in the neighborhood worked in their favor. Years of being good neighbors, of helping others, of maintaining their property now provided silent testimony to their character. Officer Rodriguez carefully reviewed the documents. Her trained eye moved methodically through the survey maps, the excavation permits, and the county records. Marcus watched carefully, knowing that every detail mattered. After what seemed like an eternity but was actually only about 30 minutes, Officer Rodriguez turned to Karen. Her tone was professional but firm. Ma'am, based on the documentation provided, there appears to be no violation of property lines or local regulations. Karen's face fell. The carefully constructed narrative she had been building began to crumble. Her 911 call, meant to be a dramatic intervention, had turned into nothing more than a waste of emergency resources. As the officers prepared to leave, Tom Richardson approached them, offering to provide a statement about the long-standing property boundaries. The neighborhood had effectively united against Karen's attempts to create conflict.